Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, still recovering from daylight savings time. Let's see here. God, I'm tired. I really hate daylight savings time. Like, I mean, I've hated it pretty much. I hate it. That's too strong a word. I have disliked it my entire life, but I'm getting old, and I work 70 hours a week. So yeah, it's starting to get to me. This is, like I said, I am still recovering. It's actually funny. I was thinking about it. You know, coronavirus, blah blah blah. I'm probably going to get sick regardless of coronavirus, just because my immune system is smashed in the face because of daylight savings time. Oh, also, it's going to be raining all week, too, so that'll be fun. Yeah, anyways. Moving on. So, as usual, I want to start with show news, which is why I'm going to pull up my show news notes. First of all, you remember that FF7 Voot we had? You'll notice the Voot thing is still up. I'll talk about that in just a second. I apparently closed my own tab. So I'm an idiot. I'll have to pull it up here. God, I spent this whole morning getting ready. Come on. Okay, so the FF7 poll is closed. We're done. We had 264 people voting on it. And the results are dramatic pause. We will be voting. We'll be streaming Final Fantasy VII R on Fuzzy Duck. Now, that's going to be a little bit difficult, but what's going to happen, we thought about actually hooking up a controller to Fuzzy Duck and playing it that way. But instead what we're going to do is we're going to use him as the screen, and we're going to have a projector, and he's going to have to stand very still as we play FF7R on him. You know, like he'll be the projection screen, that kind of a thing. That'll be pretty cool. What was I saying? So I got really distracted. Thank you very, very much, Fuzzy Duck. Very much obliged and appreciate, sir. And I put that down for Mario Brothers. So, FF7R. I just want you guys to know there were 264 votes. The spread was 2. You know why it got de-tied? Because it was still tied as of, I think, Friday. And I was like, okay. And I asked a couple of my friends what they think they would do, and they both voted for stream it a week later, and that broke the tie. So, with a vote of 133 to 131, we will be streaming it on April 17th. I hope the 131 of you are not too disappointed by that, but this is a no-win scenario for me. No matter what I do, 130 people are going to be unhappy, so whatever. Now, Wraith isn't super surprised by this. He's cool with everything, but that's kind of his thing. I mean, when you've been a Wraith for 700 years like Wraith has, that's why he's called Wraith. What we call Wraiths are actually named after him, as opposed to him being named after the Wraiths. That's kind of how that works. But anyways, he doesn't get surprised by anything, especially not the fact that he has not decided to put his sub towards anything. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but Wraiths are critically vulnerable to donuts. So can everyone just throw donuts at Wraith until he decides to tell me where he wants to put that sub, please and thank you. So we'll be streaming FF7R on the 17th. Which is a while from now, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But I wanted to get that over with, especially since we have another sub, or another vote, excuse me. So I'm going to go and link this into chat. There you go. This is, it didn't even occur to me to do this poll, but someone brought it up, and I was like, sure. Why not? Democracy. Go.
Pay close attention. Hopefully you'll learn something.
This is the exact same poll, but for a different game. Do we stream Doom Eternal on the 20th, or do we stream Doom Eternal on the 27th? That's the poll. Plain and simple. Now, Cord is trying desperately to interrupt my ability to talk about this. However, the good news is that he has not gone to... That's actually terrible news. Why haven't you gone to sleep yet? Take some ZQuil. Pass out, man. Thank you, Cord. April 17th will be the FF7R. And thank you very much, Mega. Very much obliged and appreciate, as always. There we go. Thank you. And no, this we're not streaming FF7R in 2 days. So yes, go vote, please, on the Doom Eternal thing. If you don't care, that's fine. But that is now a poll that is up. Yeah, I don't see a sub from you, Omni. I don't have it in my notes. Do you have a button that you can hit? Like on your chat or something like that? What else do I have for show news? God, where's my notes? You guys are distracting the hell out of me today. They're like, quick, he's tired! Donate a ton of money. Wraith, you still haven't told me what you want to put it towards, by the way. So that's the FF7 results. That's the Doom 5 results. That's Omni Otter's results. Omni Otter, thank you very much for the sub, as always. Very much obliged and appreciate. As usual, you guys are distracting the hell out of me. What I really don't know, though, is what you want to put that towards, Omni, because if you don't put it towards something, then donor-y death is going to happen. So, anyways, so we'll be playing Doom 5 whenever you guys vote for it. I don't care. It really doesn't matter to me. It only matters to you. Please feel free to vote. And I'll put that as well towards Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, which, by the way, we're absolutely not playing until it comes out on PC, just to make that very clear, even if it, gets to the front of the line. Just want to make that very clear. Wraith apparently put it towards RE3R, which is a game that we're probably not going to play the day it comes out, because it's actually pretty low on the list, but that's okay. Probably not, Magister. I don't really have anything to say about it, and neither does anyone else. Now, final bit of show news I want to talk about really quick here is that, once again, I do want to remind you guys that the only reason those highlight videos happen is because of you guys clipping videos. It's the only way that it's even remotely feasible in order to do that. So, FYI. Moving on. Where's my stuff? Current topic. We're moving on to random news. So, Guild Wars 2, for those of you who care, is apparently spooling up to have a new expansion. We know basically nothing about it whatsoever, other than the fact that it's a new expansion that's going to come out later. Which is good, because there's been some worries about that, myself included. But the one thing we did see is a picture which looks a hell of a lot like it's going to be set in Cantha, which I'm actually kind of excited about. For those of you unaware of what that means, don't stress it, but it connects to Guild Wars 1. Probably not, Fuzzy Duck. I also don't even know when it comes out. So Vic Rattle, I don't know if you're aware of this, but ruminations are decided in yearly blocks. So all of the ruminations for 2020 are not only already picked, but have already been recorded and uploaded. Like, if I died tomorrow, you guys would continue to get ruminations up until the end of December. So the answer is no. Moving on. They have a Mario Lego now. Now, I've been looking at the Mario Lego stuff, and my first thought was, sweet, because I like Lego. Right? I used to play, you remember the old Spaceman Legos? They had, like, factions and, like, the beginnings of a storyline there. Do you remember that? You probably don't. They had Star Wars, Star Wars Legos. They had Geludo's Legos. Now, Geludo's Legos were really strange, because there was a lot of weird kind of going on, because they didn't really know what to theme it after. But then they realized what they'll do is they'll just take each letter on his name and make a theme after that. And that's what they did with the Legos. It was very excellent. Thank you very much, Geludo. Very much obliged and appreciate, as always. I put that towards Mario Brothers. The Mario Lego stuff, however, looks really weird to me. Like, I mean, the Minecraft Legos were pretty good, actually. And like I said, Star Wars Legos have been excellent for some time. But the Mario Legos just look weird. And I think it's mostly because of Mario himself. I'm going to go ahead and just link this in chat here. Yeah, if you feel like watching it. But, like, just... most of you have probably already seen it. It's just kind of... That's supposed to be Mario? Anyways, I mean, I'm down for the idea of Mario Legos, but like, you know, you'd figure they'd go in the level design direction, not the whatever that is. He also doesn't look like a Lego character, which is just like, we have Lego Batman. He looks like Batman and a Lego character. That looks like a nightmare. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it. We'll see. It's a shame, because my niece actually rather loves Legos, and I was thinking about getting it for her until I saw it, and then I decided no. Next bit of news is Horizon Zero Dawn is coming out on the PC. Kinda already mentioned that. But for those of you not aware, here's the link for that. There we go. Yes, Horizon Zero Dawn is confirmed to be getting a PC release sometime in this summer. We don't have an exact release date, only a release window. Woo! I'm super happy about that. I'm always excited to hear, you know, of stuff being ported to other things, as long as it's a good port. That's really the catch, you know, as long as it's a good port. So, fingers crossed it'll be a good port, and we'll be able to play the hell of it, and it'll be awesome. It'll be nice to be able to aim a bow with a mouse. Next thing to comment on, this is actually a weird one for me. Reggie, yes, that Reggie, is joining the board of directors at GameStop. And those people are stupid, Blackwell. And I'm not sure what to make of that, because I've been looking at that, and I've actually looked over, you know, this news thing a few times, and I'm going to go and give my opinion really quick here, because everyone's like, oh, Reggie's going to fix GameStop. I think this is Reggie's retirement. For those of you not aware, a lot of people in upper echelons of corporate society, they don't stop working. They get a job where they don't have to do much work and keep making income. And that becomes their retirement. This is a very common, very old policy. A lot of people have done this for centuries at this point. So that's my first opinion. That's my knee-jerk reaction, is that this is Reggie's retirement. He's just pulling some money out. Now, that being said, several people have asked, you know, the obvious question, do I think Reggie Fils-Aimé, which is the Reginald Fils-Aimé, excuse me, could actually fix GameStop? Oh, they're still making plenty of money, Darth Tyron. Even if the company's going under, they're still getting paid. Well, you think they're going to take pay cuts? Yeah, no. So, let me go ahead and say that I actually have a fairly large amount of faith in Reggie's ability to be a leader, to be a manager. He's done a lot of good things over the years. He's made a lot of good decisions over the years. Now, that being stated, do I think he could fix GameStop? Yeah, I actually do. Among the other credentials that this man has, he's a geek. Now, he's a total gamer geek. He has been since he himself was very young. It's part of what I like about him. The problem is that would involve him basically being in charge of GameStop, which he's not. He is a member of the board of directors. He is one voice in a crowded room of people who don't give a damn. So, no, I don't think GameStop is turning it around. I will be happy to be wrong. I don't particularly see any interest in watching, you know, a bunch of people lose their jobs over some crap like this. I have no particular fondness for GameStop. In fact, I have, as a point of policy, avoided GameStop since somewhere around 2005 or 2006, somewhere around there. Let's go with 2006. Because screw GameStop. But that's mostly because their policies and their personnel have been garbage in basically every one of my interactions with them. Yes, Verthus. Guild Wars 2 is kind of like World of Warcraft. It starts out total crap, vanilla, then it becomes better in Heart of Storms, and then it becomes good in Path of Fire. So yes, I play Guild Wars 2. Electronics Boutique, never heard of them. Oh, I'm sorry, EB Games. Sorry, that's what you're probably asking about. Anyways, so that's what's going on with Reggie. Meanwhile, E3 was canceled. I don't have much to say about this one. I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the coronavirus, or COVID-19. And there's actually a lot of reasons why. it's very quickly becoming a topic that is entering the controversial territory. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have a rule that basically means no controversial topics. And there's no hard definition of that on purpose. Because the point is, what is controversial at any given point in time changes depending on the time it's being stated. There's stuff we could talk about nowadays that won't raise an eyebrow that we couldn't talk about back in the 80s or 90s, to use an example, and vice versa, excuse me. But I have already seen people, and I'm not talking about the news media or whatever, I have already seen people personally, as well as people I know, who have been on, let's say, two very opposite extremes of opinion when it comes to this whole thing. And I've been around the block a few times before. I can see where this is going. So we're just going to not talk about it. You can talk about it all you want, but I'm not going to. Moving on. E3 being canceled. I do want to mention the thought. So several people have asked, should... there's two questions that have been asked about this. Will E3 stay canceled, and should E3 stay canceled? As for the will, probably not. Some of you may or may not remember this, but E3 has been canceled before and has been shut down before, and then it came back. Like, that's a thing. Moving on. So, no, it'll probably come back in some fat manner or another. There's simply too many people who have money, who are interested in making money off of the entire thing. So, no, it's probably not happening. That being stated, should it stay canceled? I don't think I am well-versed enough to give a legitimate opinion about that. Because the problem is, E3 is a mess and has been for years and years and years. That's nothing new. There's a reason we get together and kind of make fun of it every year. In all good fun, but still, we make fun of it because it's a mess. Because it's always been a mess. That's nothing new. Right? And again, I'm not trying to sound mean here, but E3 has been in the decades range here. That being stated, it is good fun, of course, to get around and kind of make fun of it. We get announcements. It is nice to get announcements and have a nice big, universal spot for announcements. We also... The problem is E3 is also designed for both investors and players, but not really for either. And in my opinion, and this is not just opinion I share unilaterally, they've been failing at both perspectives for several years now. They've been going either too focused on players or too focused on investors in ways that don't really work. You know what I mean? There is such a thing as the best of both worlds, but this is more like the worst of both worlds, my opinion. So, I think E3 has basically been failing at what it's doing. Yeah, we'll see, Pika. We haven't even had news of that. Of course, we had rumors all over the place, but every week there's a rumor about a new Nintendo Direct, so that doesn't mean anything. By the way, it's at the Lorerunner. I hate to correct you, but at Lorerunner doesn't do anything, just FYI. You can blame Twitch for the fact that there is actually a Lorerunner user who doesn't stream, who's been squatting on that name ever since I actually changed my name. But anyways. If they wanted to split E3... See, part of the problem, too, is that E3 is kind of a mess when it comes to the developer perspective. Because developers... I want you to picture this, okay? Because this isn't just for gaming. This applies to the tech industry in general. I want you to imagine that you're working on a thing. And you're working on it, and then your boss comes in and says, "Stop everything. We need to do a presentation." And then you spend days, weeks, or months, depending on how badly managed you are, putting together a presentation for the big E3 conference to make sure that everyone can see it and be like, "Ooh, ha." And then you can go back to work afterwards. You know? So that's a downside. If they wanted to focus more entirely on the business side of things, they don't have to do as much with regards to presentation, but at the same time, they still are required to make a presentation, which means they still have to put this stuff together and blah, 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 blah. So the long and the short of it is there's no good answer with regards to the developers. They get to have it in the... it gets to suck for them no matter what they do. So that's neat. This is my sarcastic voice. So with regards to us, I'll see that's an interesting question, Tigzar. The answer is, of course, no. However, that is the way the market works, so it's basically mandated in order to get the proper interest necessary to be able to afford the budget that is being allocated for marketing or to sell your product in order to actually get it out there and get people to buy it. It is also necessary when it comes to investment with regards to whether or not your stock's going to move and how many people are going to be putting how much money into your company. So, no matter what, developers get to suck it, is what I'm trying to get to. Now, that leaves the players and the investors. And the investors can go to hell. Nobody cares about them. But the players, I mean, I cannot be the only person who thinks that the idea of doing online-focused direct things is better in every way. And that's speaking as a social extrovert. So you remove a lot of the physical requirements of setting up the stage and the props and the people and the cabling and the hardware and the lighting and the Falderas. Like, do you have any idea how much work it takes to get Falderas set up on every single stage simultaneously to make sure that the lights go off at the right time and that the audio is set up at the right time? It takes so much work to get Falderas set up properly. You have no idea. Hopefully it won't take as much work to get him to tell me exactly where he wants to put that sub. Thank you very, very much, Falderas. If you do a digital presentation, obviously that still takes time and work. But it takes so much less time and work, and money, if we're being blunt while we're on the subject, than it does to do a physical presentation. Or in the blind forest, you got it. I can type. New keyboard. Now, I don't know how we're going to be able to watch E3 this year, Pika, since it's been canceled. We could just watch a blank screen, make fun of stuff. Anyways, so, from a player perspective, I would prefer they shift to the digital thing. It takes less work, takes less time, takes less money. It has less chance for things going wrong. It tends to be shorter, but also more information-packed because you can just kind of boom, 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 get everything across relatively quickly and efficiently. And, of course, it can be rewound and replayed at will. That's my thoughts on that one. Moving on. Was that it? I guess that's all I have for random news. We do know, since we're talking about E3, we do know that several of the companies plan to do some kind of digital presentation with regards to E3. We'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, well, whatever. Can't talk about. Can't talk about. Really unlikely, Pika. Amazingly unlikely. So for those of you who care, we are going to do a spoilers discussion on the movie Onward, which is requested. This is just going to be a brief thing because I doubt anybody cares that much, but I did happen to see the film regardless of the show. Nobody paid me to it, I just wanted to go see a film with my niece. So how many of you even know what Onward is? God, I gotta look up character names now. I didn't exactly take notes. Onward is the latest Pixar film. It is Pixar, right? Yep, it is Pixar. Just double checking. I suppose for the sake of it, we'll go ahead and put spoilers up, but I'm not sure there's anything that actually qualifies here. Yes, max time. So for those of you not aware, we're going to be doing the discussion about Onward, then we're going to discuss My Little Pony, then we're going to discuss My Little Pony, and then we're going to cut off for the day because I'm going to be going to the grocery store, but not because of the virus or anything, just because it's a Sunday, and it's my day to get errands done. So I'll be getting errands done for the second half, and we will not be streaming for the second half of today. What really weirds me out, if I was to go ahead and talk about the Onward in summary, it would be a kind of generic, not that I'm aware of, Micromono, a kind of generic film that nevertheless had some honest heart to it. And, well, it did the Pixar thing. I suppose this is as close to spoilers as it gets here. Because it did the Pixar thing where it's like, hey, oh, what's this? Is this your heart? Die! Die! And then you just leave the film sobbing. You know what I'm talking about, right? The Pixar thing, it's kind of their shtick. It really got started with Up, but they've been doing that for a while. And it did manage it extremely well. We actually got into, so we had dinner afterwards, and we got into a discussion about what the most heartrending Pixar film is. Most of us agreed that probably the most heartrending Pixar film was actually Coco. I was arguing Up, because Up left me a bawling, sobbing mess in the first 5 minutes, and I had to pause the damn film. I didn't get to see it in theaters. Just holy crap, that one just beat the crap out of my emotions. But anyways, yeah, so the premise of the film is that it's a fantasy world based heavily on Dungeons and Dragons, by the way, as in Faerun, to be more specific. And then I love this premise because it's actually probably my favorite part of the entire film as far as thinking, as far as something that engages my brain. The premise is magic is hard to learn. And magic can only be learned by specific individuals, you know, sorcerers or people who are born with the gift. But then someone discovers electricity. And technology just kind of replaces magic because it's so much easier to use for normal people, and it's so much easier to master. And something about that premise just really appealed to me. Like, yeah, I could do this. Or I could drive a car. You know? I mean, I could carefully cast this spell, which if I screw up will kill someone, or I could just drive my car to work. I mean, yeah, you could say a car could kill someone too, but you get the idea. And so I love that premise. Now, the thing is, and this is probably the thing I liked the least about the movie, is it portrayed that as a bad thing. It wasn't heavily slanted, it didn't get up on a soapbox, and it didn't get preachy. But it did make the repeated motif of the fact that all the magic has left the world. As in, you know, the magic, you know, modern technology bad, you know, our lives were better back then, that whole thing. The usual thing. You've heard it before. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, you've seen it before. Yeah, if you've never seen that one before. But it wasn't over the top. Again, it didn't bash us in the face with it, so it didn't really bother me all that much. See you around, Fuzzy Dog. I do recommend the film. If you happen to like Pixar films, it's a good film. I wouldn't put it at the top of the list, like in the top half of Pixar films. It doesn't approach, you know, Incredibles 1, WALL-E, Toy Story 3. But Inside Out, that's another really good one. But it's still good, and I can still recommend it. Now, so I should also mention, this film, like, it had... I could list the actors, and I was actually looking at the cast list right here. But the only two I really have to list that anybody really cares about are Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. Now, what's interesting about this is, near as I can tell, this was actually Disney utilizing a clause in their contract to basically jump on them before they can charge more money for their services. That being stated, though, they did do a very good job with their roles. Tom Holland played an awkward teenager who was slowly coming into his own very well. And Chris Pratt actually did a really good job of portraying the older brother who has depths to him but tries to avoid those depths on the surface level and blah, blah, blah. You know, basically, both of them are two-dimensional characters, and they do a decent job of it. That was such a good ending, though, Paranoid Android. Yeah, that's true. Technically, you're watching magic right now. Hi, this is real time. You're probably seeing me with maybe a few seconds of delay. I agree. I hope Tom Holland's career really keeps going. And I do think Chris Pratt is a good actor. He's just Usually he's playing Chris Pratt. This is actually one of the few times I've seen him not playing Chris Pratt, which I liked. But anyways, the other time was a voice acting role too, now that I think about it. But I'm getting off topic. So, the whole point, and this is the comedy part of the film, is he's given a spell to resurrect his dad. So his dad died. They never actually say what of. He got sick from something and they couldn't cure him. So his dad died before he even got to meet him, when he was very, 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 very young. So his dad, in his final days, researched and invented a spell to resurrect him for himself for one day just so he could see his children, which is pretty sweet, if kind of terrifying in its own right. But let's not get into the implications there. Now, naturally, the younger kid, that would be Tom Holland, is the one who is a sorcerer, who has inbound magic and therefore can cast the spell. Nobody else can. The funny thing is, Tom Holland doesn't know anything about it. The older brother does actually know a fairly large amount about magic because he's into that. Like, that's his habit. That's the thing he likes. Now, you think that sounds horrible, Omni. The comedy comes from the fact that they only resurrect the bottom half of him. So you see his pants and his shoes and his socks, his terrible socks, and he just walks around as a lower body for pretty much the entire film. It's played off as comedy, and they're extremely inconsistent with their own rules about it, so I just kind of had to walk by that because, yeah, I didn't find it particularly funny, and I didn't really care for the way they presented it. It was basically being done to do Weekend at Bernie's. If you've ever seen Weekend at Bernie's, you've seen most of the jokes they used for it. No, seriously, I'm pretty sure some of them are actually copy-pasted from Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. Anyways, so the comedy didn't really work for me. What did work for me was the mother. What I'm really surprised by is, like, the movie focuses entirely on the kids, right? Obviously. What they do is they basically take, without telling anyone, they take their dad's lower half of his corpse, and they charge off to go to this mountain to find this super amazing egg in order to power the spell, in order to finish off the rest of him. Blah, 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 blah. Also, there's this magic fountain in the town they live in. Don't think about that. It doesn't come up in the finale. Definitely wink, wink. So they charge off on this big adventure without telling anyone in the older brother's wicked sick van, aka a van that he himself repaired, making it kind of Millennium Falcon-y, but less reliable, if that makes any kind of sense. The thing is, the way the film really succeeded was in how much, like, there's a lot of scenes, but the set piecing between the scenes is kind of, okay, now we have to have the fight with the biker gang people, who are fairies, of course they are. Then we have to have the big fight in the, with the Manicore, and then we have to have the scene where they have the big fight between themselves, and they almost get caught, but they bumble their way through it by comedy, and just every scene had very, very bad framework with regards to how it was constructed and how it moved between each other. But the scenes were actually pretty good, which is the really strange part, with the exception of the comedy, which, as I've already mentioned, just the film didn't make me laugh, like, once. Do they do something with the premise of the world? I feel like I already told you the answer to that question. Like, you don't understand, magic's gone, it's a bad thing. Like, there's this undercurrent thread that as the brothers are traveling, who had really good chemistry, by the way, as the brothers are traveling, they keep inspiring people to go back to the old ways. Like, the fairies don't fly. Because, why would they fly? I mean, they don't need to fly. They've got motorcycles now. But then they're inspired to start flying again. And the centaur is inspired to start running again. And he has long, beautiful hair, apparently. And he's also having sex with the elf. But let's not get into that. And just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. God, what else? There's several elements of, they've been inspired to... Oh, the Manicore, of course, the obvious one. Who played the Manicore? Octavia Spencer, she played the Manicore. She actually did a good job with it. But the problem is, So she's centuries old. She's a Manticore, of course she is. And her whole big shtick was that she's a restaurant owner. But it's so obvious what they do with it. Like, I want you to picture this, okay? I want you to picture some great and powerful individual is working on a normal desk job, and we need to make sure that every sign is signed in triplicate, and they have to deal with the kids, and they need to make sure they're following the insurance protocols, because if they don't, it's going to go bad. And I mean, you've seen this before, right? You've seen The Incredibles. You've probably seen a dozen other works that do this exact same thing. It's the very typical, I used to have a great life, now I have a boring life. And then, of course, she goes, oh my God, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And then I have to fight back. I have to make it the way it used to be again. Rawr, the old way was better. And so she roars, and she actually burns down her own restaurant. She did a good job, though, the Manticore. She did. That being stated, as I already mentioned, the woman who was the mother, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I believe. Yep, I am correct. She probably was the takeaway star of the show for me. And I don't even know, I've seen her in something. What has she been in? What do I know you from? Ah, she was in A Bug's Life. That's probably... She was also in Planes, which I think someone saw that, right? Did anyone ever go see Planes? Because I did not. But she played the mother. And the elf mother, the one who is... Okay, so... I said she's having sex at the centaur. Let's rewind that a second. She was the princess, Princess Ada. She is the her husband died years and years and years ago. We're talking in the decade range, like decade and a half ago. And so she has since moved on and gotten together with the centaur, who also happens to be a police officer. That's where that comes from. No judgment. They seem to be pretty happy together. And the centaur seemed to be treating her right, so cool. But the point is, once she finds out her boys has left, she goes after them. And she basically becomes a cameo, but she's a consistent cameo throughout the entire film. And she's a badass every time she shows up. Now, I don't mean in the sense of raw. I mean in the sense that she's very competent. And I usually like competence when it comes to my characters. So the fact that she's able to so competently keep up with them, manipulate the police, get the Manticore on her side, figure out where they're going, blah, 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 blah. She's also the one who actually, well, I'd say this way. She's the one who effectively defeats the dragon at the end, too. With the Manticore's sword. So, that was pretty cool. Oh, I should mention there's a dragon. So, okay. The whole film, there's no bad guy, right? And it showed, Mike Romano. There's no real bad guy the whole film. They're just bumbling their way through a road trip kind of adventure, trying to save their dad, blah, 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 blah. Comedy, comedy, comedy. Turns out, this is... I mentioned that fountain, which is totally not important, and there's no reason to say... No, okay, so the actual thing they were looking for the entire time was in the fountain. Back in the town where they started at. Now, I should probably mention there's a ticking clock involved. The spell only works for 1 day. 24 hours exactly. So, that includes the time he spends as half of a corpse. So, they're burning the timer the entire day they're doing this. They finally get back to the town. They finally get the gem. They finally figured out how to do it. The problem here... And they said this way in advance, this was well foreshadowed, is that every major magical gem, they call them Phoenix gems, or Phoenix eggs, excuse me, has a curse attached to it. So they pull the gem and they go to start resurrecting the dead. The curse goes off. The curse destroys the school, their school that they're from, and turns all the rubble into the form of a dragon. This is probably a scene that would have been awesome, except they tried really hard to make it funny, and I didn't laugh, personally. Again, I know, the film didn't make me laugh. What I'm saying here is, so the film's... Let me just lay this out for you, okay? The school's mascot is the dragons. Go dragons! And so they have this big, cartoony face of a dragon, And that's their mascot. Ugh. So when the actual magical curse dragon is forming its body of all the rubble, guess where it put the face? So you've got this giant, legitimately terrifying looking monster made of concrete and ripped apart signs and pieces of cars. And there's just this dragon, this cartoony dragon face on its head. So anyways, they fight the dragon, they win. And then, I mentioned the heart-rending part, because of course the film has to absolutely destroy your emotions. It's hard to explain, and I'm going to fail miserably at explaining this. I was sobbing like a baby at this. My sister's, after I asked, her opinion, her opinion was that she cried through half the film. And I could feel that. Tom Holland's character, the younger brother, gets really pissed off because they've finally gotten back to the town, like I mentioned, and there's nothing there. They have failed, they've done everything wrong. God damn it, you have ruined everything. You are such a screw-up. He's telling this to his older brother, played by Chris Pratt. You screwed up. I don't even know his character name. What's his character name? Barley. So Ian, that's the younger brother, saying it to Barley, the older brother. You are such a screw-up, and you screwed up the one chance I would ever have of meeting my father. The one chance I would ever have of meeting my dad. Now, the whole film, I mentioned Tom Holland is a good actor. The whole film, Tom Holland has been selling me on the portrayal of a kid who's never known his dad. He has a cassette tape that his dad recorded on accident. And it's him trying to get the cassette tape working, the recorder working. But as he's recording it, he's responding to his mother, who's kind of barely audible in the background. So we hear that, and then Tom Holland's character rewinds it and plays it again and starts talking with his dad as if he's responding to him. Because that's all of his dad he's ever known, is this one tape recording. So this whole film, this has been a big deal for him. His life hasn't been going great, and he's idolized his dad since he was very, very young. He gets this list, and it's all the stuff he wants to do with dad during the day. And it's all sorts of, usual stuff, laugh and hang out together, share my feelings with him, find out this kind of thing with him, blah, 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 dance with him is one of the things. And at the bottom of the list was share my whole life story with him. And it's played off as kind of a joke. As the film progresses, as time passes, because remember, they have a 24-hour ticking clock, he just starts scratching them off bit by bit on the list because he realizes he's not going to have time for this one. He's not going to have time for this one. And now he's not going to have time for this one until it gets to the last part where he just has, share my life with him. So it gets to the end of the film. They've got like 20 minutes left on the timer. He's given up. He sits down with his dad's legs, pulls out the notepad, and he's obviously furious and bitter, and he's just looking at it, and he starts swinging. And then he hesitates, and then it shows us a scene of him and his brother doing the first item on the list. God, this is actually hitting me a little bit as I'm reciting this. And then he looks at the second item on the list, and it shows him and his brother doing the second item on the list. And as he goes down, and this is a brilliantly directed scene. Really, all of the Pixar quality went into this one scene, I swear to God. Because he's going down the list like, oh my God. And you could see it on his face as he realizes that everything he wanted to do with his dad, he has been doing with his brother. That his brother has been his father figure. And it never really clicked with him. Until he gets to the last item on the list. Share my life with him. So the way the film wraps up is the cursed dragon is still there, causing, the mother takes it out because she's awesome. And he's the wizard. He's the one he can actually use magic. He casts the spell to bring his dad back, and then goes and fights the dragon. Why? So I kind of skipped over this part, but Chris Pratt's character, the older brother, he never said goodbye. He actually knew his dad. He was still, he was like 5 or 6 when his dad died. But he was so scared of walking into that room and seeing him all desiccated on the table. He describes it brilliantly. Again, Chris Pratt does a wonderful job of describing just how horrific it was seeing his father in such a dilapidated state. And he couldn't walk into the room and he couldn't say goodbye. Yeah, you see where this is going, Raskor. You've seen the film. So the younger brother goes to take care of the dragon so the older brother can say goodbye to his dad. The whole film, they're all trying to get his dad back. Again, brilliant quality. What happens is we see the sequence of events from Tom Holland's perspective. He's trapped in the rubble of the dragon, having defeated the dragon. And so he can barely peer through, and we see in the distance over there the full father. He's fully resurrected. And we see him talking to the older brother. We don't hear what they're saying, obviously, because we're way over here, right? But we see their actions, we see their movements, and it ends with them doing this really big hug, and as they're hugging the dad, fades away. Spell's over. And that's basically the film. There's a denouement. The Manticore has rebuilt her restaurant. She's just doing it in the old style. The Centaur is running now instead of using the cop car. The fairies are flying around again. Magic has come back to the world. Whatever. But that I have to admit, most of the film was just kind of for me, right up until those last 10 minutes, which were, it's probably closer to 20 minutes, but it was really well done. Like, astonishingly well done. It felt like they put all of the, what I would usually refer to as the Pixar quality into those last 15 minutes. And the rest of it was just kind of Cars 3, Hi, Savicom. I just finished talking about the film. Yeah, pretty much the inverse of Final Fantasy VI. It's a good way to put that. Do I think those 10 minutes were worth it? Yeah. It was very clever, very well acted, very well presented. Just, it was legitimately excellent quality filmmaking for those last 15, 20, however long it was, minutes. Like, holy crap. Anyways, that's kind of it, actually. That's the film in a nutshell. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really worth discussing. Like Pretzel. Like, honestly, I feel if the film had Pretzel in it, it would have been a lot better. But for some reason, they just didn't want to put him in. I think he was just charging too much money. I mean, he's worth it, but they didn't agree with me on that. And thank you very much, as always, Pretzel. Very much obliged and appreciate, sir. Does the return of magic lead to a class war? So that's interesting. Because, obviously, the film doesn't end on such a note. He does keep his magic staff, which is required to use magic, and he does keep his ability to use magic, but all he does is use it to give a presentation during class. So, he does, however, get a new, he gets a new van for the older brother. Guinevere 2. Oh yeah, there was one other scene that I actually think is worth mentioning. There's this bit where the cops are chasing them because comedy antics. And they need to escape. And so they're like, what do we do? Well, there's this narrow road going through a pass. All we have to do is you just use your magic on those rocks and we'll break the rocks down, it'll block the pass. We'll be able to get ahead of them. Okay, sure. He can't use the spell. Oh no. Instead, what he does is he literally sacrifices Guinevere. And I said the film never made me laugh, but I have to admit, this is probably the closest I got to laughing. Because what happens is he sets the van up, puts a rock on it, and then just lets it go, so the van is going to collide with the rocks, explode, and cause the rock fall. The part that made me kind of half grin, the whole thing is portrayed very epically, of course. The part that made me grin is the tires on the van burst as it's taking off, which about friggin' time. It's a dilapidated van. but as a consequence of the tires bursting, it starts galloping. The van was named Guinevere, by the way. Anyways. I'm sorry. I'm looking at... I have to share this. So I'm looking at the soundtrack here. Of course I do, Imperial Star Destroyer. I get notifications for 100% of the comments I get. The very final song, the song that plays during the ending, is Magic Returns. Really? Like I said, that's all I got. I would still recommend it, although if you don't want to see it in theaters, I don't blame you. It's still probably worth picking up on, Disney Plus, especially if you already have Disney Plus, whenever it finally goes live onto streaming. So, make of that what you will. Now, I am going to go ahead and chop off the local recording.